to forget what happened to us, what happened to me, what happened as I let it slip. I was confused by the powers that be, forgetting names and faces. Passers-by were looking at me as if they could erase it.
Welcome back, bastards, brigands, sirens, and scoundrels, and of course, scruffy-looking nerf herders. I am the Brigand Bob, and today we are going to talk about my custom-built Glock 19 clone everyday carry pistol. And it's been quite a journey with this particular firearm that I've built. So if you've been tuned in for a while and you've seen other episodes that I've released, at one point this was a P80 build, then it was a dagger build, and now it's finally reached its final form, and we're going to go ahead and kind of go over all of that. There's a couple of things on here that are going to need their own reviews, so I'm not going to go too in-depth on them in this video, like the Primary Arms SLX RS10 red dot and the Strike Industries Mass Comp driver, which is phenomenal. Those will get their own videos, but we'll talk about them a little bit in this video. But mainly we're going to talk about this overall build, the parts that went into it, and kind of the journey to get to the point that it's at now in its final form. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Originally, when I started this project, I wanted to do a P80 build, and I was going to try to go with a Strike Industries P80 frame to match the Strike Industries light slide that you see here. This is the Strike Industries light slide. It is a phenomenal Glock 19 or Glock 17 if you go with the 17 build slide, and probably the reason that I like it the most, aside from the fact that it looks pretty decent and it's got a very good aesthetic look like a lot of Strike Industries things do. The red dot cut for this slide is particularly phenomenal. The reason is because it comes with a cut that has holes milled for all different kinds of footprints, and in the package with the slide comes the cover plate, but also comes a lot of individual little posts to fit in the different holes, and you put those posts in the holes for whatever footprint of red dot you want to run. And it is solid. It hasn't moved, it hasn't shifted, it hasn't gotten loose on me, and I've got more than 1,000 rounds through this red dot mounted on this slide. Actually about 2,000 rounds now, and it hasn't given me a single bit of trouble. This actually is a doctor footprint, this particular red dot, and I would prefer an RMR footprint, but the great thing about this slide is it just doesn't matter what footprint of optic you have, you're going to be able to place it on this slide, and those posts hold it in place. Once you tighten your screws down and you've got it locked into place, it's not going anywhere. It's not sliding back and forth. It's not ramming up against the slide. You're not going to have to worry about it flying off of the slide. It's just a great design, and honestly I wish more people would do it the way that Strike has done it. It probably is the best red dot cut for hosting red dots that I've seen on any slide, period, at all. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Before we go any further, we'll go ahead and do this because I know everybody on the internet will freak out. This is empty. The mags that I have up here for examples are also empty as well. So empty. There we go. All right. So I wanted to have a frame that matched the Strike Industries light slide, and of course the Strike Industries P80, or Strike 80 as they call it on their website, was the one that I wanted to go with. I got it, and then I proceeded to immediately fuck it up in the milling process because I used a P80 jig, not a Strike Industries jig.
Dumb bitch.
I completely screwed up that frame, but I had a P80 frame. So I went ahead and built out the P80 frame, and I put an Agency Arms trigger in it, which I really liked. But at that point, I was kind of nervous about carrying a P80 as an everyday carry, and there's a good reason for that. Just from a legal standpoint, whether or not you're in the right or you're legally correct, it can create legal complications for you in the event that you ever wind up in a defense scenario where you have to use your gun. and not wanting to cause additional headache for my lawyers, I wanted to go ahead and just avoid that altogether. And so I was back to the drawing board trying to find a frame that was going to look good with this slide. And this slide looked really good on the P80 frame. I didn't love how it looked on the Dagger frame. Nothing against the Dagger. It's a great frame. It just didn't like how the slide looked with that particular lower frame. So fast forward a little bit, I found the SCT frame. And you can find this frame right here on Brownells for about $49.99. And you can even find it on Primary Arms for about the same price. This Primary Arms has a sale, and I've seen it go as low as $39.99 for this frame. The frame comes with only the rails. It does not come with the pins, so you just need the pins for your front block, rear block, and your trigger pin. And it looks shockingly identical to the Strike 80 frame. I mean, almost exactly identical. There's barely any difference between this frame and the Strike 80 frame. They are so similar, in fact, that I was able to get a Strike Industries magwell for the Strike 80 frame, and it fit perfectly into this SCT frame. So that should tell you how nearly identical they are. And so it's serialized. I didn't have to mill anything. I had to fill out all of the proper forms and whatnot out at my FFL in order for it to be transferred to me. So this is a serialized lower receiver. It's not a ghost gun. It is a serialized device. So and when I got it off of Brownells, I want to say for about $49.99 for the frame. In fact, my FFL cost out the door, my FFL fee was more than the frame itself, ironically. So when I finally settled on the SCT frame, things kind of started to come together. I love the way that it looks, the way that it mates up with the Strike light slide. It looks like it belongs there, probably because it looks damn near identical to the Strike 80 frame. And so because of that, you get a weapon that looks, well, like it was made to be assembled this way. The Agency Arms trigger is fantastic. I love it. It is probably so far my favorite trigger that I've run in a Glock style pistol. And I have a Lantac arm bar and spring system for the plunger and everything else in there for the striker and whatnot that keeps it at about a 3.5 pound pull. So you've got some take up there, you've got the wall, a little bit more take up, and then the brake. The brake is nothing. See if we can get that here. Reset. Brake. It is a very light, very crisp brake with a very tactile reset on that. But this is a very forgiving trigger, and that doesn't suck. I think that's great. So I got a Lantac enhanced firing pin or striker pin, and that thing has just been baller. No light primer strikes, no nothing. Just an absolutely fantastic striker firing pin. Love it. So Lantac makes up the internals on this upper for just about everything. There's some aesthetic things that I did, like I want to say Tyrant or Tier, something like that, Defense, makes this little back plate, and it matches the LD2 Combat Systems barrel, which is fluted, which you can see there. It looks pretty. It is not a crown barrel, which normally would annoy me, but because of the device I have on front, it doesn't really matter that it's not a crowned barrel. But the machining in it is clean. There's no burrs. Everything was really nice. I like the LD2 Combat Systems barrel. I'm not the greatest shooter in the entire world, but you've got like your high level, shooters who rank world class. They would want a better barrel, I'm sure. But for 99.9% of people out there running in self-defense EDC, this works fine. I can hit steel at 40 or 50 yards with it, so it is a good barrel. The accuracy is solid. It's more accurate than I am. We'll just leave it at that. Now, coming out to the front of the device, we have the Strike Industries mass comp driver. I had seen some stuff on it and I thought it was a really interesting idea. What I like about this are two things. One, you do not need a threaded barrel for this comp. It does not attach to the barrel, which means no extra barrel. And if you live in a state that is stupid and doesn't allow you to have threaded barrels and threaded comps on threaded barrels, then you can have this and still be in compliance, which is neat. I live in a free state, so it doesn't matter, but I like this design because I didn't have to buy an additional barrel and because it acts as a counterweight when you're shooting. So when the slide reciprocates backwards, the mass comp driver is reciprocating forward, creating additional mass pulling forward to help keep the gun level. And it does make a difference. It shoots very, very flat. On top of porting the gases, which it does, and in the video you can see the gases porting up and out to the side, it springs forward as well, which you can see in slow motion capture. It actually springs forward and counteracts the weight of the slide moving backwards and the reciprocating mass of the slide as it moves backwards, which is fantastic. Does it work? Yeah, it works, and it's absolutely worth it. So it is a perfect blend of form and function. Strike Industries, again, great job. Between the mass comp driver and the light slide, nothing but good things to say. And I'll be clear, like, not everything Strike Industries makes is a slam dunk or a home run, but man, they knocked it out of the park with this slide and the mass comp driver. These two things are fantastic products. I can't recommend them enough. I haven't had any problems with either of them. They're just great. And the design and engineering and implementation and machining is top notch. I am running iron sights here. I want to say they're Ameriglow. Got rear iron sights that are blacked out and a fiber front post. They are not suppressor height, so they don't co-witness. Haven't really had to run them, honestly, because the red dot's been working fine for me. As I mentioned earlier, the red dot is a Primary Arms SLX RS10. It is a decent red dot, especially for the money. There are a few issues with it on everyday carry, but it is overall a good optic. I think you can find them for about like $139.99 or $169.99. And I believe I mentioned earlier, we've got the magwell from Strike Industries for the Strike 80 frame, and this magwell fits the SCT frame perfectly because they are essentially the same frame. I also went ahead and got a matching base plate for my 15-round Glock mag to match the rear plate on the slide and match the barrel, just kind of to match the aesthetics. This is a Gen 5 Glock 19 magazine. I do not like Glock PMags. I have not had good experiences with Glock PMags. They have caused me issues. The only times I've ever had issues have been with Magpul Glock PMags. So I just run OEM Glock mags. Personally, that's me. So I'm trying to think about anything else to tell you guys about this gun. It was quite the journey. It went through at least 3 iterations before it settled on its existing final form. But since it has reached its final form, it has been highly reliable. I haven't had any malfunctions, jams, anything that I needed to really clear with it. It has been a very reliable weapon. With the Lantac striker firing pin and the Lantac spring system, no light primer strikes. I haven't run into any malfunctions, double feeds, failure to ejects, anything like that. It has been great. And so far in this existing setup, it has at least 1,000 rounds through it. And overall, I want to say like the total build overall comes out to like $500 or $600. And that is a great value overall when you are building out a gun. I mean, you could spend $600 or $700 just on a base gun and not get all of the bells and whistles on it like this. Now, the downside is trial and error, right? If you're building out a pistol for the first time, you're going to run into issues and you're going to have to work through them. And every time you make a change to your weapon, you should take it out to the range and put at least a few hundred rounds through it to make sure it runs clean without any malfunctions, rapid fire through it, make sure you don't have any problems feeding, ejecting, or anything of that nature. test your weapon that you're going to carry on you if you're going to carry it on you every day. And that's what I did, and that's why it took so long to get around to making this video. I wanted to make sure that this was a reliable weapon and that I could come on here and talk about it with some actual experience behind this stick and tell you about my experience with it. This was the first time doing a handgun, and I had a lot to learn, and I did learn a lot through that process. So ultimately, this is my everyday carry, and this is how we kind of got here to this point. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you got something out of it. Please go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section below if you have anything to say, if you have any feedback. Let me know what you would like to see next. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like it. It helps me out a lot, and it helps the channel out a lot. I'm trying to grow. I really appreciate your time, guys. Remember to be kind, be compassionate, be empathetic, but still remember to be dangerous and stay scruffy looking. I'll see you next time.
Confused by the powers that be.